What's up, queens? Welcome back to the Female Dating Strategy, the meanest female-only podcast on the internet. I'm your host, Patricia.
And I am Rose. And Patricia, I loved the glee. I loved the revelry in your voice when you're like, we are the meanest. Yes. Yes.
It's one of those things where, sometimes movement starts and they have a very intense criticism against them, and then they take that for their own. Like, even Impressionism, that was like kind of a swear word that was used against them in a first art gallery exhibition. And then they were like, yeah, we are impressionists. Like, it felt unserious. If I'm not wrong, it was like a Vox article or something that called the subreddit, the FDS subreddit, like really mean. And they were like, yeah, we are mean.
And I was saying this to Patricia in the pre-show. I was like, listen, I have really had to embrace, and this, I was so happy when I found FDS, partly because it was so mean, because as someone who comes from Minnesota, which if you're not from the United States, you don't know this, but we are known for being Minnesota nice. That's a whole thing. But it's really just like passive aggressive politeness. But it's still inbred in me, you know? And so what I've had to work on and FDS has helped me immeasurably, is I've really let go of this idea of having to be nice, especially as a woman. And I've held true to the ethos that I should be kind, I ought to be kind, and that's something I work on. But fuck niceness, man. Be as mean as you need to be, because this world will take advantage.
That's exactly it. And this exactly connects to what we want to discuss today, which is basically rekindling the communal fire, having everybody brought back together to the core FDS values, which are basically about being discerning and putting yourself first. Not in a, it is in a self-serving way, but you know what? We're just regaining the balance. It's not about being mean. It's about doing for yourself what everybody's doing for themselves, which is to take care of yourself and to mitigate your investment into things, specifically into dating, but it can also be other things based on what you're getting back. And this is something that we've kind of been socialized out of.
100%, and it's been to our detriment. I feel like if women were more selfish and self-serving, and if women were meaner, we would not have nearly the mortality rates that we do, especially when it comes to, because I feel like partly they've set up this artificial predator prey dynamic. That's what patriarchy has done, right? It's set up men as the predators and women as the prey. And what has helped achieve that throughout these years of patriarchy has been this idea that women just need to be nice. We should be accommodating. We should be considered. It should be for the good of all. It should be for the communal benefits that we orient our lives and our efforts and all of our energies. But if only 50% of the population is oriented that way, what does that tell us? I mean, kind of do the math right there.
And not to, I totally agree with you. I do want to caveat that that is a powerful thing that we as women bring, but that needs to be mitigated just to protect ourselves. And indeed, with this really tragic example that you bring of femicide, it's not to blame the victims, but indeed the things that we allow in relationships as women are getting, our boundaries are being pushed in rather than out. And this is what we're here to discuss. We're here to discuss, what is FDS? What is FDS? Please tell me. Female dating strategy. What is it about?
Well, female dating strategy. Well, some things that I often find helpful for myself when I'm trying to find a definition is I first go over what it is not. Okay. So, for example, if you go to get, this is an unrelated example, but I think you'll see my point. If I go to a hairstylist and I want a haircut, but I don't know what haircut I want, the hairstylist doesn't know what to do. But if I tell my hairstylist, oh, I don't like layers, I don't like bangs, my hair is really fine, I have this colic here, all of this information about what I don't like and what I'm dealing with as far as my own struggles, they integrate that and it gives them the ideas for what might really work for me. That's how I've learned how to be like, oh, now I know I like a blunt cut, or now I know I need to have a shorter haircut. I need to be like more of a bob person because that's just what's best for my hair. But that's been through trial and error. And a lot of the error has been just learning to be like, oh, this doesn't work. That doesn't work. What can we do without using these things in the repertoire?
I like that. I like that example because a lot of the times we understand things through restrictions.
Exactly. For what we take away. And this is something in all of your lives. If there's something where an expert is saying, well, what do you want? What do you want? Give me your idea. What is your vision? And you don't know, Most likely what you do know is what you don't want. So just start from there.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
It's a starting point and it gives them useful information to take into the calculus. So with FDS, one of the ways I think about it is what it is not. It is not 4B. It is not a separatist movement.
I'm just gonna jump in and say that 4B is a social movement that says we don't want to date men at all. We don't want to have babies with men. We don't want to marry men.
We won't date them. I mean, to the extent that like if we could only ever deal with women in, business relationships or in household issues, like they're trying to basically completely separate themselves from the world of men. All the more power to them. Honestly, I feel like it's about time women have that ability to make that choice for themselves, but that's not what FDS is, right?
It is not separatism, indeed.
We're not separatism, right? We're not, and also we're not like, oh, you should only ever date women, like women loving women. That's a whole other movement, which also I actually really like. But again, like if you're a cis hetero woman, you're interested in dating cis hetero men, and that's actually just totally fine and normal.
Yes.
It's like the majority of the dating world, and yet we've been made to feel like it's somehow erroneous or anti-nature to have these inclinations, and I think that's just ridiculous. Like there's a reason why the human race is still around, and it's because of these cisgendered relationships typically. So what FDS is about is dating. We are here to explore the world of women dating men, what that means for us as a whole, and individually, what does it mean on both the micro level and the macro? Micro, like how do you decide who you want your carpenter or your electrician to be? Macro is making sure you're supporting women's friendships and encouraging them to put themselves first always. That's, I think, a start of what FDS is. What would you say, Patricia?
I really love that overview. And I also want to touch upon something that you said, which is like what you feel when something is wrong. And then you're saying, like, to yourself, not this. This is an important feeling. It's part of being connected to your intuition and feeling what is wrong for you. And that's actually how I got to FDS. I'm going to tell the story shortly. I also want to hear about your story. So, my origin story was that I was in a relationship for more than a year and a half. We were living together because I was like in my kind of early 30s and I was really intent on settling down, having children. And because I was not an FDSer yet, and also to my benefit, I will say I was like in a low point in my life generally. So I don't think my self esteem was where it usually is. Anyways, I was in a relationship where I wasn't feeling loved. I wasn't feeling actually chosen or like, in a directed way, like this person really is choosing to be with me fully. Some of the times he did, but some of the time he didn't. And I stayed there and I made excuses for him and I tried to make it work. When in actuality, I couldn't face reality, which is I need to let go of this person. Like I need to let go of my stress of having babies and to see that this person is not good for me. Until eventually push came to shove, he went away abroad after like for a short trip, after he did something like, I'll get into it maybe in a different episode, but yeah, he was not being okay. Let's say it like that. And I finally got brains. And you know what I did? I decided one sidedly, this is over. No more conversations, no more trying to deal with things, no more communication. I just went around the house with big black plastic bags, emptied all of his stuff into the big plastic bags, put it all in our spare room, blocked him on every platform. Not before I informed him, we are done, come get your stuff. And then he shortened his trip, came back, but I wasn't there. I was at my friend's house the whole day and he was blocked on every platform, so he sent me an email.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. Listeners, do you hear this? Do you hear the beauty of the simplicity of this?
Really painful, and I never finished the relationship like that. It was really painful for me that I let myself, and this is the point, I let myself receive this behavior. I was asking myself the question, and this is something that I see resonating a lot after people end relationships or relationships end for them, and they realize this was not good for a while, and they ask themselves the question, what in me allowed me to stay in this for so long? And this question really hurts because it's not about the trust in front of another person that may have broken your trust. It's your trust with yourself. That's really painful. And that's something that needs mending. This is when I realized, not this. And I started looking for things. I started looking for answers or new questions to ask. And that's how I found FDS.
Damn, Patricia, that's so well said. I think that I know when I've had things end disastrously or even just allowed myself to be involved with people who were clearly awful people, afterwards, what I really struggled with the most was the self betrayal, was the shaken faith in my own judgment. How did I get so far gone? And I just, like you say, my faith in myself was shaken, and that's a terrible thing. But if you're dating men, that probably has happened to you more than once. And it's not to say that your faith or that your judgment is not sound, but I think you're right that the boundaries around our judgment have been hemmed in and pushed and pulled in so many directions to accommodate everybody but ourselves. So, learning how to hold those boundaries, learning how to increase them, put even more boundaries in place, put even more self respect into place, that's where I think FDS really comes in clutch.
I think the most important thing to understand about boundaries is that a boundary only exists if you uphold it. The meaning of a boundary is that beyond that point, you are not playing anymore. You're not in the game anymore. That's what a boundary means.
Yeah, if it's only theoretical, it's not an actual boundary.
Exactly.
Sorry, not sorry. If it's in the quantum realm, probably not applicable to your day to day. Hence, not applicable in general. So what we want is to have these boundaries be ironclad. Or if it takes a ding, how do we go about repairing it? How do we go about shoring it up again? And also just like consoling ourselves that it's okay to be human and it's okay to have these things tested and to be tried. And we're not always going to come out on the winning end. But you've got to think about it like it's a battle versus the war. Ultimately, we want you to win the war of love and life. And that means that sometimes there are battles and skirmishes that you might lose, but we build upon that wisdom, we grow it, we combine forces with our sisters and our fellow queens. And that's how I think we ultimately win the war. And again, this is where I think FDS has been extremely instrumental because it has gathered so much collective wisdom. I had never before seen on the scale that I did when FDS came on Reddit. I had never seen so many women's voices. And I had never seen so many stories be the same because until that point, we'd never been able to crowdsource women across the globe. We really hadn't harnessed social media in that way. And I think that's what we're seeing now. And Patricia and I have talked about this. The feminist media landscape has changed so much in the last 5 years to the greater good. But back when FDS started on the subreddit, like in I think 2019, it was a completely different landscape. And I like to think that FDS has had something to do with like the ship coming aright as far as our goals and our objectives as being women who want to be in loving, caring, mutually beneficial relationships. It's interesting to hear how I liked hearing about you. First of all, your story is amazing and it's like goals for life. Okay. Just grab a plastic bag, put all their shit in it, and block them everywhere. Yes. I also found it very interesting that you said, you went looking for answers and you went looking for questions that you hadn't thought to ask. Would you give me a little bit more insight into that? I think that's fascinating.
Thanks. Very well said. I would like to challenge you in a friendly way about the term war. Like, I don't feel like this is a war that I want to wage in terms of finding my boundaries and negotiating them. Because I think if there is a conflict or or a war vibe, that's when I step away. That's when I protect my peace. But indeed, I do agree with the larger point of these boundaries. Like people today maybe sometimes use the word boundaries as kind of like a cure all psychologically healthy, regulated magic buzzword. It's not what it is. Boundaries are indeed negotiated through time. Sometimes you think your boundary is there, but actually it's a bit closer or a bit farther, and you negotiate them with yourself. And it's okay if your boundaries are negotiated over time. However, it is important that the boundary means that you're walking away. A boundary means that you're disengaging. But we're going to talk about that a little bit later. What you asked me about what questions to ask, this is something I actually heard in a political podcast that, like by a political scholar, he said something really thought invoking that the person who sets the tone in a political landscape is not the one that has the right answer for a question, but rather the one that poses the question that is asked. If you get to pose the question upon which people are arguing if it's yay or nay, you have set the tone. The person who asked the question, that's who set the tone. So I guess that's like a general thing to say, but specifically when I was going through my, let's say, transformation or trying to understand what I want to be, this is exactly what I was asking myself. I was asking myself, who do I want to be? And then the answer to that is the first, the first pillar of FDS, which is leveling up. Every journey, every FDS journey starts exactly with this moment where a person understands between themselves that their values are not where they want them to be. Reality had played out with their behavior, with their values being enacted on reality, and they have seen that their values are not representing who they want to be. And so that first stage is leveling up. And that could be working on your finances. That can be mostly, I would say, working on your psychological health. But maybe, I don't know, maybe you're in debt, or maybe you have serious life shit that you need to deal with. Like I was going through a very serious health problem in the last year. I'm kind of still in it. But there was a moment where I needed to tell myself in a truthful way, I actually don't have space today right now. I'm actually focused on my health. And that's okay. It's okay to do that. But the organizing principle of leveling up, or the strategy there, is have a good baseline. You want to get to a place where you're happy where you are single. And this is super important because the whole thing, I think a very strong part of this philosophy is that we want to date men, but we don't want to sacrifice our good for the sake of being in a relationship with men, which is what socialization makes us do. We really value being in a relationship, and then we give up on ourselves. And that's okay a little bit. Every relationship requires compromise. But if you do that a lot, you end up suffering or dead. Sorry, but that's the reality. Like, shit is serious. So level up is the first thing. I talked a lot. What do you think about that?
No, I love it. I mean, when you have something to say, I want you to embrace it wholeheartedly. I think women are we're so quick to cut ourselves off or to ask, like, is there something you want to respond with? Like, that's all legit. I do like the platonic method of like, I'm going to pose a question and I want to hear what you have to say. But really, Patricia, I do want to hear what you have to say. When you have thoughts in your heart and you can speak them, it is such a powerful force in this world.
Look at that, guys.
You hear that? I want you to know.
I have the best co host.
Thank you. I mean, I was talking about this with Patricia as we were kind of getting to know each other a little better. And I was saying to her, I'm somebody who actually really struggles to talk. And I know it would, if people in my real life heard that, most of them would laugh because I've learned to become a sociable person because that's what society demands. It's what enables you to have an easier life, to get better jobs, to get better pay. So I've learned and practiced how to be a sociable person because it pays dividends. But growing up, I had a father who was extremely negative towards me talking whatsoever. He absolutely despised me having any opinion, me voicing any objection or argument to anything. It was shut down. It was shut down with force. And actually, let me just take a aside. I appreciate that you mentioned that about war. I'm using it in a purely like not an illusion, but what's like a linguistic way. It's a metaphor, right? It's metaphorical, right? Obviously, we want it to be peace and love. So thank you for correcting that. I think that was a good pushback. But I grew up in a house that was a battlefield, and women were always to be the losers, And so when I finally got out into the world, I really had to push myself to speak. Like when I did my graduate program, it was agony to speak up in the seminars or at a colloquium. It was like my tongue was tied, my heart was breaking out into palpitations. It just felt like it was end of the world kind of thing. And I've just kept pushing through over the years. And actually, that was why when I applied to be an FDS host, that was a real breakthrough for me. My therapist was extremely pleased because I was working to enact my values into the real world, right? I wanted to become the person that I knew I could be and that I should be. It was like keep letting myself not talk because of how my father set the tone when I was a child. Then he's still winning years after he's gone. Am I going to let him win for the rest of my life? Like, I want to win for me because I think what I have to say is of value. And I think it does matter to other women that they hear us speak. So I was really, really pleased when I ended up getting this gig because it was like, okay, I'm going to practice this now. I'm going to put it into practice and I'm going to become who I've always known I could be. And I think that is what FDS has meant to me all in all. There have been so many moments, just small moments, minor moments where I've paused and thought back to what they said about like leveling up, becoming the best version of yourself, treating yourself as a queen, viewing yourself as a queen. If I don't view myself as a queen in my own life, whoever will? The queen never doubts herself when it's amongst her public. She can in her private life. She's human too. But I think the way we carry ourselves in public does have a lot to do with how we are received and how we're treated in return. I think FDS has been super instrumental in that regard for me, just like coming to own my majesty.
Your Majesty, I love that. And I also really loved hearing you say to enact your values in the real world. I think that's super impactful. That was also, in a way, one of the answers, one of the recurring answers that I got to the question, who do I want to be? It's a lot about being self-directed. Exactly like you said, like you birth within you a certain value or an entity that you wish to become, and then you go forth in the world and you do it.
Yes. I think that's where, especially in this like social media and online saturated world, it's really easy to see all these people with their podcasts or their Instagram feeds or, TikTok. There's so many different ways in which people are out there talking and saying that they are these things. But you don't actually know if they're doing that in their real life. Like it's really easy to talk. It's one of the words are cheap at the end of the day. What's extremely difficult is to translate words into action. I've been putting off and delaying getting this dissertation done for years at this point, and finally connected with my advisor at the end of last year. And she was like, "Are we ready to finish this? Let's do it." And I'm like, you know what? Yes, this is one of my 2026 goals. I'm going to finish the dissertation and defend it and officially get my PhD. Am I going to do anything?
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't want to. I don't want to go into academia at this point, but I want the PhD for me.
Hell yeah. I think it's really satisfying to finish something. And it's also really easy. On the other hand, it's really easy to put something off when you don't have somebody, blowing down your neck and you don't have to do it. It's for you.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's something where, for the longest time, I think the other facet of that is I was so mired in self doubt. I would rather have failed without trying than have tried and failed. But at this point, I've had such growth that I realize I can bet on myself. I can count on myself. If I fail, I'll find a way. If I fail, I'll find a way to turn the failure into a success. What I have now is a level of self-trust that I didn't even a few years ago.
That's super cool.
That is how we're meant to grow, we're meant to change, we're meant to evolve in this world. And if you feel like you're stuck, like we have all been there, and I'm sure we'll be there again. It's just human nature. It's just life in a nutshell. But I think having faith that in yourself is the most powerful tool you can ever have. And I think, especially when it comes to dating, having that faith in yourself is instrumental.
It is very instrumental. It is very important as a base because indeed, when we start dating somebody, when we'll, you know what? I'm going to leave that because I want to talk about basically three pillars of FDS, or maybe I don't know if it's pillars because it's kind of a layered cake where the first level of the cake is the leveling up, like creating a very stable base for yourself. And of course, as you said, we are an evolving entity. We are always changing. We are always finding ways to improve ourselves and in ways in which we can make ourselves more accurate and more in tune with how we want to be in the world. And it's also okay that we fail sometimes or that we have weak days or flop days. That's all fine. It's part of the journey. But then the second part is indeed the standards and the boundaries. And it's kind of like leveling up is just you with yourself. And then standards and boundaries is the reflection of that or the outpour of that into the world around you. Like you said, the queen can still be a queen in her private chambers, but then she holds audience, right?
Right. The public, the societal. This is where we're talking about the macro, right? In your own world, it's one thing. Then you move on to the world outside your front door. That's the public, the social. Maybe it's a pyramid in that case, Patricia, like the solid foundation, the core of it all, the base of the mighty pyramid is leveling up self-trust, self-judgment, self-faith.
Self-regulation, I would add.
Oh, that's a big one. That is a huge one, actually. Oof.
It is.
Yeah. I'm still working on that myself.
Me too, me too.
Right? It's a lifelong process. But after that, we move up the pyramid. It narrows a little bit in that sense, in that it's like you in a one-on-one situation, or even in a work situation, or even in the grocery store, or driving in your car.
That's exactly it, because bullshit at work, bullshit from your family, which is, to call it bullshit is a bit minimizing it, but that's a big motive for you. I think for you, Rose, a lot of your FDS journey has impacted the way that you relate, or actually don't relate, to your family, and the freedom that you give yourself to do that.
That's so true. Have I made that clear? I'm glad he's I'm like,
Yes, you say that all the time. Maybe not at these specific words, but that's the message that you convey.
good. Okay, good. Because I think so often I have some friends who have healthy families, but they're few and far between, who have healthy, supportive, loving, caring families. Like, I wish that were the norm, but sadly, that's not how I've had it in my life, nor in the lives of my acquaintances and friends. Growing up, I was taught that, like, everything we say in this house stays in this house, right? The abuser's edict. Nope, don't let anybody know what happens in this house. This is our own private business. And again, part of my, like, breaking those chains and pushing out on those boundaries was like, no, I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about this publicly. Like, this was a bad thing. This was abusive. This was not right. I was mistreated. And I think other women need to hear this. I think it's extremely hard for us to acknowledge how painful it might have been for so many of us in our homes, because it's supposed to be the one safe place in the world, right? It's supposed to be your haven. And until I bought my own place in 2024 and moved into my own home, I never realized how unsafe and unmoored I felt. I didn't even know until I actually moved into a place that I owned, where I was like, I am queen of this castle. Nobody can ever kick me out. Nobody has ever permitted in here unless by my leave. And something happened, like something unlocked in my chest. And I would never have known if I hadn't finally committed to myself and my life and bought myself a home.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
It really is amazing. I'm really happy for you, and I'm really proud of you. Not that I can be proud of you, but
Well, thank you.
it's beautiful that you were able to purchase a house for yourself. I think that's super cool. And I also think it's very impactful way to regain power to, yes, talk about what happened. Because when we lock it inside shame and we keep it for ourselves, we remain victims. And that's kind of us saying what happened was not okay, but it's kind of okay. And when you start talking about it, that's a way of you to say, this is not okay. And it's not my fault.
That's right. And you give other people permission to do the same. I was so ashamed for so long about how I was mistreated. I just thought I was treated the way I was because I was wrong somehow. Something within me, something about me was not right. Why else would somebody treat me like that? My own parent, right? Well, of course, therapy helped shift those parameters of my vision. And also just seeing families who were really loving and caring. I was like, oh, that's what it's supposed to be like? Maybe something isn't right, But I think time also gives you that perspective if you're paying attention. And so what I found as I've become more comfortable, even now I don't like talking about it because it doesn't define me. Like, I define myself, but it is an important part of my journey. And I still share it so that people who might still feel ashamed, people who still feel might compelled to silence themselves, can start to unlock those inner chambers themselves and free themselves, because that's what we all deserve. We all deserve to be free from that abuse and that shame. And I think that's a huge part when it comes to dating, because for so long, when I look back on my dating history, it's like, oh my God, it was just a series of catastrophes. And like I said, that had it was like catastrophes and chaos. It just reaffirmed my whole mistaken belief. Something's wrong with me? Well, it wasn't something was wrong with me. It was I had wrong ideas. That was what had to change. That's what had to shift. Therapy was my first step in that journey. FDS was the next. And I think FDS was what really brought around. I feel bad for my therapist. She worked with me for so long and so assiduously. She was a priest. God bless her. Oh, all the goddesses bless her. She's amazing. But like, I remember I met up with her for coffee in October. Quick aside, if I can beg your leave. I had met up with her just to check in. We're still friends, like, nobody's my bigger cheerleader, especially now that my mom has passed. And we were talking, and I told her, like, "Hey, I'd gone to visit this one brother who I still try with from time to time because I otherwise I have no family left, right?"
He's the best of the worst, right?
That's what I call the best of the worst. Yes, exactly. And I was like so I'd gone to visit him. I really wanted to see his kids. I wanted to be the auntie and, like, do what I could to still have a brother. And the trip went so poorly, and it wasn't due to any lack of effort on my part. Like, I flew across the ocean, I came bearing thousands of gifts, like, thousands of dollars of gifts, like, I was the easiest guest, I was washing every dish, right? And at the end, when I got home, I was like, "Wow, I feel so bad. I feel so unappreciated and unloved after I went through all this effort." And I was like, "So therapist, I think I'm ready to withdraw my efforts. I've been working with him for a long time and trying, but I think at this point, I think he just merely tolerates me. I don't think he actually likes me." And she's like, "I've been trying to get you to see this for 10 years." And I was like, "I know, I'm sorry. It took me forever." But I really think FDS was what really kind of because FDS would say, "Hey, it's not just your boyfriends and your husbands. It's your fathers, it's your brothers, it's your uncles, it's your sons." And that was what I think somehow I had separated in my mind, like, romantic male interests were in a different category, and so, like, they could treat me in certain ways, but it's all's fair in love and war. I still had that mentality back then. But your brother and your father, they're like sacrosanct. They're supposed to be the holy of holies. They're supposed to be the ones who love you beyond recall, without judgment, without borders. And I really started to look, and like I said, after that last trip, I was like, "Oh, I really you know what? FDS would tell me, 'Don't bother.'" And I'm not saying I'm not gonna be a sister, I'm not saying I'm gonna drop out of being an auntie or, like, I'm never gonna talk to him again, but I finally wrapped my head around the fact that I have to protect myself, I have to withdraw my energies and my efforts. I'm open to his overtures, but I will no longer be extending myself in any way.
That was a beautiful story.
Thanks, Patricia.
Sorry, I feel like you still wanted to say, one more thing, or
Well, no, just that's what FTS that's applying the practice.
that's exactly it. It really conveys this notion of when you are with yourself at a place that is healthy, with time, your standards and boundaries are just going to fall into place and it's going to be easy. You don't need to work hard to set boundaries and text to people, this is crossing a boundary for me. It's ridiculous. You just know where your energy is not met and you take a step back because you protect your energy, your resources, your heart, because you value yourself. And it happens so easily, it happens spontaneously.
And that's what my therapist was just like, "Oh, hallelujah, at last." And the coin finally dropped. And I was like, "Yeah." And now I just feel in many ways, I feel much lighter about it because there was a heaviness from still trying and from misdirecting energy in that quarter. And again, I think one of the reasons why I was able to finally afford my house, create a career and a life for myself that gave myself the financial security, the stability, was because I had finally withdrawn my efforts from family quarters. I had finally said, "You know what? This isn't getting me anything other than misery and heartbreak." And especially coming from a culture where like family is venerated, nothing is more important than family is basically a cult, was how I was brought up.
Yeah, I'm sure it was not easy for you to do that. It's not easy, it's painful.
It's very painful. It is, and it's lonely, and it's all these other things. And I think, again, this was a micro example of what it's like in the dating world. It can be painful, it can be lonely. And when those moments happen, withdraw and regain your strength and renew your own belief in yourself. This was something I had mentioned in Savannah's Swan Song. I was like, "Listen, guys, I'm getting ready to date again." And this was huge because, again, I feel like it's the last couple of years where I'm like, "Okay, I've cared for myself, I've nurtured myself, I've gained a greater clarity in myself and my value. And so now I can go out into the world of dating because I'm not going to take personally whatever these men dish out because it doesn't have anything to do with me, really, unless they choose me, unless they choose to cherish me." I think when you were mentioning Patricia, you were like, "Sometimes he treated me how I needed to be treated, other times it wasn't good." And I think what you were looking for is like, we're looking to be cherished because if I love you, nobody cherishes you more than I do. Nobody adores and honors you more than I will. And that's what I'm looking for in return. I don't need all the men in the world to treat me like that. I just need one man. And again, FTS is about finding that one relationship, that one man where you are being fulfilled in all the ways that you need to be fulfilled.
Exactly. And continuously vetting if that still holds water. But indeed, exactly like you say, you know what? I will think about it as a pyramid. No conspiracies allowed in this space. Just kidding. But if we indeed think about this as a pyramid, it's indeed the first very good base is you, then your relationship, which is the leveling up, sorry. Then the second area of the pyramid, which is narrower because it's built on your own relationship with yourself, is your standards and boundaries, which is how you react with the world. And then on top of that, you can put the dating aspect when you date with intention, when you continuously vet in a way that reflects your standards and boundaries, when you have that very good base in yourself, and then you are not fazed by people mistreating you because you would never make, like, of course you can be attuned, you should be attuned to how things make you feel, but that doesn't mean that that it reflects on your self-worth. And that's basically what we're going to discuss here in the next eon, foreseeable future, because we're really, really enthusiastic about gearing up, about making really good content for everybody to gather around, for people to light the flames inside of them in the way that we had. We just want to pass this on and help as many people as possible and hold this intention together. We also feel, both of us, that it's also how I felt when I found FDS. We're not saying anything that's kind of like novel in a way. We're just resonating truths that already exist in each and every one of us that maybe resonate a wise word that an older woman told you. These are nuggets of truth and wisdom, I hope, that reflect the good basis that in that exists in each and every one of us, but maybe is swings this way or that way because we're subjected to so many different inputs. And like some people are saying, oh, don't date anybody that takes you out on a walk or a coffee date. Or if he doesn't respond in this time, then don't date him at all. Or if he doesn't pay for everything, that I don't know, like all kinds of things that I think are too intense and too extreme in putting the focus on the external things and not on how things feel or on the values or on the essence. And on the other side, you also have, I guess it falls more on the right wing type of advice, but you also have, I guess, mainstream or conservative advice that tells you, like, oh, you got to understand the man and blah, blah, blah. And that's also kind of true, but there's like a really nice balance that I think is somewhat missing, less missing now today. I feel like there's more kind of talk that I can resonate with, but we would like to bring our special flavor of feminism and female benefit to everybody, gather around, have some fun, roast some scrotes.
Oh, good pivot right there. 100%. I love this. We're rekindling the communal flame. Like, this is for all of us, queens. This is meant to be shared and shared freely and to bring warmth and to bring life to your lives. This idea of getting back to our basics, I think it's such a good, that's just how I'm thinking about it. Like FDS, that was all I needed. And then now I've learned that there are other feminist takes and I like listening to them too, but I always come back to FDS because it's just so good. There's nothing that hasn't been thoroughly vetted by like thousands of women at this point. Nothing is getting in that's reactionary or extreme. It's all just like common sense that isn't so common in the real world. So Roast-a-scrote, we want to bring that back. We also want to bring back, was Queen, what was it? Oh,
Let's think of something that we like. I think it's level up stories. Your level up stories.
that's it. Send in your level up stories to contact@thefemaledatingstrategy.com. Send in to the same email, your Roast-a-scrote. Also, we like this idea of having people write in, like if you want to write in for advice, what used to be called an agony aunt column, like Dear Abby or yeah. I love an advice column. And so if this is something that you're interested in, send us an email with your scenario or what your take is on something. And let's start to have more engagement with our listeners because I think there's so much wisdom to continue to accrue from our collective. Like, let's make that happen, queens.
Yes, I love that. And also, if there are guests that you want us to have, also please let us know.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That's actually good. Ow, man, there's some people we have to follow up with because we had some guests who we had to put off. Actually, everybody got crazy last summer and we were canceling and some of our guests were canceling and it was like, we're going to get back to you. Well, I guess it's time to get back to you. So we got some work on our own.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, right?
I also wouldn't mind having Amber Aquila again. I got a friend crush on her after she was on the podcast and I started listening to hers.
Oh my gosh, her animal biology is just it's so refreshing.
No, Amber Aquila is somebody else.
Oh wait, Amber Aquila is the Hong Kong Australian DJ.
China, yes. Australian Chinese DJ artist. She's really cool. She brings like really deep philosophy, but in a very light way. And she's also super self-aware about the language that she uses and her concepts. I love her. She's so cool.
Okay, I like this idea. I know we've got to bring Gail Dines back. Like Gail Dines is the perennial.
She's subscribed, right? She's subscribed as a guest.
Yes. So these are just some of our ideas that Patricia and I have been, discussing when we're looking ahead to 2026 and beyond. I feel like there's never going to be an end to this conversation, and I bless that.
And also, this is an important note that somebody asked what's going to be our recording schedule. So we would like to share with you all that it is our plan to publish bi-weekly because we are now just starting up. We know that there's going to be technical challenges or scheduling challenges, and we really, really want to be consistent. So we want to set it in stone that we are publishing bi-weekly, and hopefully that's going to be established like by the end of the winter and we can gear up. But it's more important for us to be consistent because also there's been a lot of inconsistency in the last year due to many, many reasons. And that's not how we want to be. We want to be here with you with the constant heartbeat. So we're going to start once in 2 weeks.
Yep, once every other week. Yep. Yep, that's okay. So everything else Patricia said, everything she said is still correct. We do want to become more consistent. We want to be reliable. We want to be there for you. But again, we're working out some kinks that, have needed to be worked out for quite some time now. So we're having to reset from the beginning, let's say, because we want to make sure this is something that goes on for many years to come, beyond our own tenures as well. Although long may we reign. But yes, we're going to come out every other week for the first couple of winter months, January, February, March. Around April, we'll see if we can bump it up to once weekly, but we'll always be updating you and letting you know what goes on from here on forward.
Yeah, because I know how it feels to be a listener and then to expect your favorite podcast to come out and then it doesn't and you're just left wondering. So we don't want you to feel that.
Exactly. And I think somebody else had asked, like, is the FDS forum still live? We don't run that, I don't think, Patricia, do we? At least if we do, I don't know.
Well, I guess I can add that to our admin to-do list.
We'll let you know what we figure out. Right now, whatever the status is of it, it's inconclusive. We haven't been brought up to date on that. We'll see what we can find out.
We haven't touched it yet. No.
We haven't touched it. Exactly right. So right now our focus is on the main podcast episodes coming out every other week and being reliably there for you. Again, we really want to hear more from you. I was really, at some point, Patricia actually showed me some numbers. I actually hadn't been paying any attention to the analytics. And we had so many more listeners than I anticipated, like 10 times the listeners that I had like estimated in my idea, which once again just goes to show, see how I was underestimating how valuable what I have to say is, even in this realm. Maybe it's a couple thousand, maybe. I thought maybe a couple hundred. I wasn't sure. It doesn't matter because the message is what matters. But Patricia told me the analytics and the numbers, and I was like, oh my God, like holy moly, I had no clue. This is so cool. Let's make the FDS Queens stronger than ever in 2026.
Yes. So with that, we will see you in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Take care, Queens. We'll see you soon. And for all the scrotes listening, welcome to the conversation. And die mad.
Die mad. See you in 2 weeks.